The Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax collection station. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to all the righteous, but sinners." While he was saying these things to them, suddenly a leader came in and knelt before him, saying, "My brother has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus got up and followed him with his disciples. Then suddenly a woman who had been suffering from a flow of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his cloak. For she was saying to herself, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well." Jesus turned and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And the woman was made well from that moment. When Jesus came to the leader's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl got up. And the report of this spread through all of that district. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated. How many times in your life have you said, "If only"? If I only had more money. If I only looked a certain way. If only this thing in my life would change. If only there wasn't so much hatred and greed in the world. If only, if only, if only. If only is a form of hope. And like with some of my examples, hoping for certain things isn't a bad thing. Desiring less hatred and greed in the world is a good thing. Wanting more peace and love is important. Sometimes we hope for things that aren't what we are called to focus on, though. Having more of something or looking a certain way isn't the goal of life. It isn't the way that we get closer to Jesus. I was struck in the gospel reading by the hemorrhaging woman saying, "If I only touch his cloak, I will be made well." And then she reached out and touched Jesus. And Jesus doesn't focus on her healing because of his power. Rather, he praises her faith as the reason that she was made well. Hope requires action. Hope is a part of faith. But we don't hope and hope and hope without doing anything. It's like praying for food to grow without planting a garden. We're kind of like that tale about the person during a flood who prayed to God to save him. And a boat came by to help him, and he said he was waiting for God to save him. And then the water continued to rise, and another boat came to save him, and he said he was waiting for God to save him. And then he was on the roof of his house surrounded by water, and a helicopter came. Have you all heard this?
Yes.
Okay, some of you. All right, good. He's on the roof of his house surrounded by water, and a helicopter comes to save him. And he says, "No, I'm waiting for God to save me." And then he dies and sees God in heaven. And he says to God, "Why didn't you save me?" And God says, "I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter. What more did you want?" Right? It's like we're hoping for something to happen, but we're not doing anything about the things that are existing. Faith includes stepping forward in action, believing that by following Jesus, we will be restored to wholeness, that we can trust in God to support us as we follow. Jesus invites Matthew to follow him, and he does. And the father of the daughter who died asked Jesus to follow him, and he does. Jesus does. Jesus follows too. And there is a lot of faith in these stories, but it isn't accompanied by sitting around. It's accompanied by movement, by action, by belief that things can change, that wholeness exists, that people can change. restoration is possible. That God's mercy and love is more powerful than anything else. More powerful than the empire enforcing poverty. More powerful than disease. More powerful than even death itself. Faith is a strong part of our being. It's something that can't always be explained even. But when you've been struggling with something for so long, like the hemorrhaging woman, who just wants life to be different, there is hope in the if only. Sometimes there is faith buried deep inside us that maybe we've almost given up hope, but somehow it still finds that glimmer. If only. Maybe the woman wasn't sure if touching Jesus would actually work. But she thought, if only I could reach him and try. It's worth the risk. She heard the stories about Jesus. She knew about him. She was struggling for 12 years. She knew it was worth the risk. She was already shunned from the community. So things really couldn't get any worse for her, honestly. So why not try? If only. Some of us might feel like we're in a similar place. Wondering, longing, hoping, holding on to hope, saying, if only. Matthew was caught up in the grind of the empire. Tax collectors were considered traitors to the Jews. They were part of the oppression of the system of the empire. It's like Jesus walking right by our church, full of wonderfully awesome, devout Christians, and sitting down with an ICE agent and inviting him to follow instead. Jesus is clear in his message. Those who are well don't need the same help. He is setting an example of mercy. He's not saying that being a tax collector is a good thing. He's not condoning this treatment to the poor and outcast. He's providing an invitation for change. The possibility to step out in faith to an entirely different life. Who knows if Matthew had been praying for something to come along and change his life? He was certainly ready to follow and leave everything behind. He made a decision quite quickly. Maybe Matthew didn't want to serve the empire anymore. Maybe he knew that the kind of treatment and enforcement that he was involved in wasn't just or kind or compassionate. But he didn't know how to get out. Maybe he needed help, and so he was praying, if only. And then Jesus came and invited him to follow, and Matthew was primed and ready to leave everything behind and step out in faith. Being primed and ready in our faith is an important aspect of hope. It connects us to the action of mercy and love. We can follow Jesus and live into his teaching today because of our ongoing practices of staying connected to God. And we are called in this moment to be bold in our proclamation of the gospel, the good news of Jesus, to lift up the message of love for everyone and make space for hearts and minds to change. Whether that is our own hearts and minds, like the hemorrhaging woman and the man whose daughter died, or others' hearts and minds, like the tax collector Matthew, who left everything to follow Jesus in love, justice, and mercy. Our faith gives us the power to live action of hope. We can say, if only, and then take action to bring about the world that God created. Who knows? God might be thinking, if only they would listen to my message of love, compassion, inclusive welcome, justice, mercy, grace, forgiveness, hope, and joy. If only they knew how wonderful the world is. If only they truly followed me. Help us to live into our action, our faith in action, God.